Hey everyone, we got the remaining starter deck cards revealed for Yamato, Bonnie, all that. So I wanted to go over the remaining cards and talk about my thoughts as somebody who played both a lot of Bonnie and a lot of green yellow Yamato, and even ST like 07, the yellow Yamato. If you've seen my locals videos from the past few months, right? I've dabbled. I love Wano, so I was very excited for this deck, for the cards to be revealed. Let's dive into it. Of course, shout out to Cardi Kaizoku for the deck builder. I'll have his channel and the deck builder linked in the description because it's really handy tool for both content creators and just building decks, right? It gives you a lot of different resources. But I just want to talk about my thoughts on the new cards. Before we get into it, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and if you want to support me, you can check out Nen Garden and use coupon code StrawHatPecan for 5% off on top of their sales. They've got a lot of new playmats, desk mats, stickers, including their final boss. The Giovanni Pokemon playmat looks really nice. Yeah, check that out in the description if you want to support me. But let's get into it. We're going to go over the cards. I also have Buggy pulled up since I didn't talk about that last time, even though I haven't really played Buggy too much. So not a ton of opinions on it in terms of, you know, just the general card sense about some of these pieces. But let's get into the Bonnie cards. First, we got the Capone Gang Buggy, 2/1/1 blocker. On play, if you have 6 or more rested cards. Of course, if you're newer to the game, this does count Don cards, right? It would be pretty expensive to have 6 rested cards if they're only talking about like character and leader cards, right? So that counts Don. Draw 1 card and trash 1 from your hand. So some immediate cycle, which is really nice. Previously, I think this spot would have been filled with like Killer, the 2-cost Killer blocker that on block, if you have 3 cards, you draw a card, or Bartolomeo, right? So we'll look up Killer. This one, yeah, the Don ×1 on block. If you have 3 or more characters, draw a card. You know, you're not trashing, so just plan on draw, which is, I guess, nice. But also had a Bartolomeo, which had a similar draw 1, trash 1 when a character is rested by one of your effects. Right, so a little bit trickier to use. So this does seem like a nice piece, and an option, I guess. I'd still say if you're playing this in Bonnie, right, this is Supernova type, so you have a lot more options with this in like Green Yellow Law, or even Red Green Law. You know, if you're protecting your 8-cost kid, this would be like a secondary blocker that you play out. You would of course want like Rosinante or Tashigi out more so than this, as it protects from removal effects that can target the 8-cost kid. So yeah, it's nice that he has the cycle, because in a lot of green decks you do run a decent amount of top end that are bricks. So the cycle is of course very nice. However, I think there's probably better options for Bonnie perchance, especially if you're relying on like 8-cost kid and like the defense of that. Not bad. Again, I do like that it seems a lot of these cards have use cases outside of their intended deck. Obviously, they're not like specific leader locked, at least like with this. Even just, it's not even the SR, just a common, could be used in some other decks. We've got one of the SRs, Kittenkiller, a 2-cost, 2k power, 1k counter. On play, looks top 5 of your deck, reveal up to 1 Supernova. So a new searcher that also has the effect on your opponent's attack, trash this character, set one of your Don cards as active. So arrested Don turns into active. Obviously, the sequencing of this opponent attacks would allow you to use Bonnie's leader ability with this Don that's being restood. It's nice. It's nice. I like. Obviously, in Bonnie, you have your 1-cost Bonnie that's rests itself to search, so it also kind of acts as a pseudo blocker because they have to swing into that Bonnie lest you get more value of it. But this is nice that it's a 2-cost searcher that gets value out immediately. There have been odd circumstances where, like late game, I have a few blockers already set up, and off of 8-cost kid, sometimes you can play off like a Bonnie searcher, but then you need an extra Don to search with it, right? Like if you use the 8-cost kid effect to play out the 1-cost Bonnie searcher, to get some more cards in your hand if you already had the blockers out. This is a nice alternative where you can just play it off of Kid, get a search, and then have a Don up, which is nice. It could maybe make for some better utility for playing out the 8-cost Kid, like on turn. Like again, if you were able to establish Rosinante or Tashigi a turn earlier, and you're on like 9 Don, right? You play this off of the Kid. You attach that 9th Don to the Kid for the effect, and then this can give you your Don for leader ability. But again, I like that it's a searcher, and it got more utility in a lot of Supernova decks. So that's really cool. We've got a Basil Hawkins, a 4/4 2K counter. Okay, so this maybe it'll replace Scratchman Poo. I don't know. Again, this is somewhat of my like first time seeing these cards. End of your turn, set one of your Don cards as active. Interesting. I think the Scratchman Poo does have more use cases for their resting a character or you know. Currently, our 2K counter for Bonnie are taken up by these two Scratchman Poos and Tashigi for the most part, right? This, when attacking, rests up to one of your opponent's Don. Comes in handy a lot in purple matches, right? Resting that Don from a Gum Gum Giant could be really nice, or in a mirror match, resting your opponent's Don. And that was always a bit of a nice kind of not like tech option, because you know it's not really a tech card. You're running it as a 4 of primarily, or 3 of, depending on how many 2Ks you do run. But definitely a nice strategy. And then this Scratchman Poo resting an opponent's character with a cost of 2 or less. Nice way to get rid through some chump blockers. Yeah, so I don't know if you would replace either of those with that. And of course, Tashigi being such a strong 2K counter to protect from removal. But this is it's not even really like a body, because also it does have, obviously it's a similar style line to Rouge, the 4/5/1 blocker that end of turn resends a Don. People have been teching that in again after like Doflamingo got less popular, and how Bounce Law kind of made a Rouge non-existent because it would just get bounced back to your hand. But definitely nice to have options for more searchable 2Ks. I don't think you would run this in many other decks either, right? Because I mean, in green yellow law, sometimes they run Room, that 1-cost counter event from yellow, so that could be an option, right? But again, I think you probably have better 2K counters in that deck as well. Law and Beppo is our new boss monster. Green, very famous for their boss monsters, very, you know, big staple, just playing out these big bodies kind of on curve. This is interesting because it's a 10/11 Minx, Supernova, and Heart Pirates. So obviously this can go into Carrot as well, which you know, rejoice Carrot players. You get a searchable boss monster. That's pretty hype. On play, rest up to one of your opponent's characters, and that character will not become active in your opponent's next refresh phase. Then, if your opponent has 2 or more rested characters, your leader gains plus 2,000 power till the end of your opponent's next end phase. It's interesting, and I don't know, I don't know if this will get used in bonding, right? Obviously, it keeps one character locked down. That is nice if your opponent's just playing out one boss monster as well, right? But in set 11, obviously, Blue Purple Luffy, my goodness, is playing out 2 for the most part, 2 boss monsters. So like a 10-cost Doflamingo is really nice for that, to keep those 2 rested and leader. Also in set 11, you have to consider the fact that Purple Katakuri, the blocker, is very prevalent, and that can restand itself at the end of your opponent's next turn. So they won't be able to swing with it that turn, but they'll still be able to restand it, you know. But I almost do like the fact that we get the plus 2,000 here if you have something else to restand a Don, like a Cavendish or a Smoker. Right, I guess it's nice that we have another option now with this and this. If you have some way to restand a Don, because one being a 7K leader that can get through 1 attack per turn, essentially, with Bonnie's leader ability about resting a Don and then resting one of your opponent's leader characters whenever your opponent attacks. That's really defensive, right? But also against like the 6k leader of Blue Purple Luffy, obviously with playing out a lot of boss monsters, you don't often leave yourself a lot of Don to kind of attach to leader if you want to also leave up a Don for your leader ability. But again, that's where kind of Cavendish comes into play, restanding 2 Don. Now in that matchup specifically, you'll see a lot of purple Linlin, the 9 cost that can put a 6 cost or less to the top or bottom of your opponent's life. So Cavendish will have a little bit harder time sticking on the board. Which again, you'll need something like that to restand Don to go alongside this. But it's nice to have like something that could buff your leader, I guess. So you won't have to, so you can use your Don for playing out more boss monsters, obviously, or something along that. And obviously, you know, if you're spending all of your 10 Don for the turn on this, then you can still swing leader into, you know, that 6k stat line, or just pressure a little bit higher. I don't know. I'm not going to write it off completely in Bonnie. I don't know if it's the most needed thing, but it's cool. I love Long Beppo. So like the art's really cool. I'll definitely try it out, you know, but we have so many options for 10 drops and endgame that I wonder if this is going to be able to compete with it. I think, you know, we always swap out endgame and Bonnie depending on the meta and depending on how things are going, right? Like 9 cost Zoro kind of comes in and out of favor depending on it. I don't know. We have so many to fit in another brick, but again, it's searchable. So it's like it's not as good as the 10 drop Doflamingo in terms of keeping things rested, right? Because it only locks down 1 thing versus 3 things, but it's searchable. So maybe for consistency's sake, that's pretty nice. I don't know. I definitely want to test it out more to see how clunky it feels, or if it's worth replacing other, you know, because if you have a searchable 10 drop over Doflamingo, then that means maybe you can run less of that Doflamingo slot to put in something else. You know, I'll have to play around with it. We got X-Drake, another 2k counter. He's a 5/5 on play. If your leader has the supernova type, rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less, then set up to one of your Don cards as active at the end of this turn. So pretty nice, very similar effect to like the 7 drop Bonnie, where like it'll restand you a Don at the end of the turn, not immediately, so you can't like use it to swing. It's not bad actually, resting a 5 cost with how much good 5 costs there are. Could combo that with like a carrot to keep that 5 cost locked down then, if you already had the carrot on board, or if you're on like 10 Don, or even 8 Don if you have like a Cavendish out on board already, you know, to resend the 2 Don. Yeah, definitely options for sure. And again, he's a 5 cost supernova, so maybe Green Yellow Law could utilize this, right? It's just another option. So very exciting. I'm going to go through the Buggy cards a little bit quicker because again, I haven't played too much of Buggy, but you know, some of them are pretty interesting. So rejoice Buggy players. I think you've got options, but again, I think from what I've seen before, I have seen some of these. I don't know. Is it what you wanted as a Buggy player? We've got some protection. Well, let's get into them. Okay, we've got Alvita, a 4/5/1. If you have 2 or more characters with a base cost of 5 or more, this character gets +1 cost. So obviously that can kind of help you with that 10 drop, right? The 10 drop Buggy. You need like 5 cost cards on board, or else he'll bottom deck himself. And then on play, if your leader is Buggy, draw 3 cards and trash 2 from your hand. So I think like you wanted more effects like this that can kind of help you get more cards. Honestly, I would argue that Buggy is in a spot where like your hand size is very hurt from playing on all these bodies. So we need like more things similar to this that kind of help you get more cards and then trash things you don't need. maybe look for more like Santi peel off or something. If you're still running that in your deck list after all this support, I don't know. Just to help you like get more pieces, right? To help your hand size. Because there are some, right, that help you replace. Obviously, it's not going +1 in hand size, really, because you're playing out this. So it's 3 for 3 essentially out of hand. And then if you're cheating this out, then you're trashing another card from that. But also, it's another, right, like Buggy, you wanted to go first, so you would hit that like 5 Don for lead ability. Now, if you're forced to go second, at least you have something that you can play out like on 4 Don that will still help you hit that 5 cost requirement later. So that's nice. That is really nice. I'll say that. We got a Cabbagee, 4, 1, 2, so a 2k counter. If you have 2 or more characters with a base cost of 5 or more, this character gains blocker and +1 cost. So that is really nice. Again, I think helping is going second curve does seem really nice. You know, I'd say, again, I'm no Buggy expert, but from seeing a lot of the decks, going second needed some help, and then also hand size, right? Because you trash so much for lead ability. Then we got opponent's turn. This character gets plus 5,000 power. So a 4/6 blocker, essentially, or a 5/6 blocker. Not bad. Not bad for also being a 2k counter and helping your going second curve. Getting into the SRs, we got Croc and Mihawk. This is like, you know, I think a little bit iffy. I don't know. It's an 8/7. On play, draw 2, trash 1 from your hand. Then play up to 1 cross guild type character with a cost of 4 or less from your hand. So obviously, this can be one of these new ones that will still become a 5 cost technically on board to help you unlock that boss monster Buggy. But also, we have the once per turn, if one of your cross guild type characters would be removed from the field by one of your opponent's effect, you may trash 1 card from your hand instead. Really nice on paper, right? Like, wow, protect from any removal once per turn, which again, since you need 4 characters on board with the cost of 5 or more to get that boss monster Buggy unlocked, removal could be pretty detrimental to your deck. However, trashing another card is also pretty detrimental because, again, you're trashing so much from lead ability to get these cards out as quickly as you can, that effect does end up being pretty expensive. So I don't know. On paper, like, seems great, but for the expense, now you are drawing 2, trashing 1, but again, because this is you're playing it out, right? It's essentially 2 cards out of your hand for 2 new cards. And then if you're using lead ability to cheat this out, it's another card. So you're not going really plus in hand size, you're going down 1. So honestly, I would have, you know, if Buggy got like just a straight up draw, like a draw 2 built into one of his characters, maybe like a little, you know, that'd be, I don't think I'd hate it, right? Because he does have such a problem with hand size. But, you know, some of this new support does look pretty decent. We got Buggy, a 4/1/1. Activate main. You may trash 1 card from your hand and trash this character. If your leader is Buggy, play up to 1 cross guild type character with a cost of 6 or less from your hand. So essentially what this is doing is on 4 Dawn, you can play out your leader ability, right? Buggy's leader ability, if you're not familiar, we'll bring them up. It's rest 5 Dawn and trash a card, and you can play a cross guild type character. Here we are. Yeah, activate main. You may rest 5 of your Dawn cards and trash 1 card from your hand. Play up to 1 cross guild type character with a cost from your hand. No cost requirement, so you can play out a 10 cost, right, for 5 Dawn. So this is essentially just doing that a turn early. Again, if you're forced to go second, this allows you to use leader ability a turn early, which is not bad. Of course, 6 cost is a little bit more detrimental, whereas for trashing a card, you can play out anything with Buggy's leader ability. This only lets you play out like a 6 cost, like a Mihawk, right? Cross guild. Let's see. So I think for 6 costs, like maybe your best one is the Mihawk, right? This blocker, because you draw 2, trash 1. It's not bad to get out a 6/7 blocker on 4 Dawn, right? before you normally wouldn't be able to do anything in terms of like cheating out a body on that, you know. So not bad. Again, I think they did a lot to fix his 4 Dawn turn right before you could use lead ability going second. So that's nice. We'll say, right? We got Moji, a 4/1 2k counter, so another 2k counter for the deck if you have 2 or more characters. Okay, this character gains blocker and +1 cost. So again, more support for that 4 Dawn turn on KO. And again, since he gains blocker, you can kind of force the KO, right? If your lead is Buggy and you have your hand 3 or less in your hand, okay, draw 1 card. It's not bad. It's essentially just replacing itself. Man, just give it draw 2. Honestly, I give the Buggy players like that draw 2 here. And I think that would have made a world of difference. You know, go +1 in hand size. I don't know. Again, they just had it was really rough on the hand size. And it's not even, you know, it's already kind of stipulated with the fact that it's a leader locked to Buggy and you have to have 3 or less in hand, so you're pretty low, right? You just go back up to 5. That's not crazy. I guess it is when you're cheating out such big bodies, but you know. Maybe they didn't fix everything with this, but like I said, it is more support for that 4 Dawn curve. So again, I'm no Buggy expert. It seems all right. Not crazy, but like all right. So yeah, the SRs, like this has a lot of potential, but like again, I said, it's very expensive in terms of its cost, right? But yeah, let me know if you're a Buggy player, if you're excited for the support. I haven't played the deck too much, but maybe we'll give it a try. Getting into what I was excited about, the Yamato support. We got our 3 cost Ashura, 3k power, 1k counter. On play, if your leader has the Land of Wano type and your opponent has 3 or more life cards, KO one of your opponent's characters with a base cost of 5 or less. The fact that it's a base cost actually does make me a little hyped for this. At first seeing this, I wasn't like overwhelmed, but it does seem pretty good. For things like green purple Luffy, obviously we're like out of EBO2 by the time this comes out, but I think green purple Luffy will still get a decent chunk of play. This can really hit their Sanji puddings, because even if they increase the cost with that, this still hits that 5 cost because it was a base cost of 5. I have seen some lists running the 5 cost blocker law that bounces and plays out a 3 cost, so could have some potential, right? KOing multiple things a turn. And the fact that it's not really, there's no cost to it, right? You're not like, you don't have to have Dawn attached to anything. It's just an on play, right? It's not when attacking. It's the on play KOA base of 5 is nice. When I was talking about the Yamato starter decks, I did mention like I'd like something a bit more in that like mid range, because we already had like the 9-drop Yamato for like late game in terms of support, right? But I wanted something to replace like the 7 drops. I wanted something to, you know, maybe some more 5 to 7 really, but this is pretty good in terms of like a 3 drop, really good, I'd say. And then we got the Izo, our Onami of the deck, right? And I'll go over some plus or minuses, some pros and cons with this versus Onami. Same kind of stat line in terms of cost and counter, but power is less. It's a 2/1/1. Dawn ×2, this character gains blocker. Obviously with green, yellow Yamato, this is not that hard to do. As long as your opponent has 3 or less life, you can attach 2 rested Dawn to any of your characters. On play, your Land of Wano type leader gains banish. Thank you for making that leader locked. You know, I mean, everyone else got Onami anyway, but this is now our searchable Land of Wano Onami. Now, will this completely replace Onami? Again, there's pros and cons. They do the same thing of banish for 2 Dawn. I think it's a hyphen Nami, right? But we got it right here. On play, one of your leader character gets banished. So it's only leaders, right? But for Yamato's purpose, we're pretty much given that double attack banish to be a really big threat anyway. And we also don't have the trigger KO. Again, that's the pros of Onami, is that it has the trigger to KO a 5 cost out of life, which is really nice. And it has a 3k power stat line, so that meant when you used, if you had nothing else on board to swing with, you could always you attach 2 Rested Dawn to Nami and then swing with her to become a 5k attacker. And oftentimes they did kind of come into play, right? If you're just playing out aggressively, you know, 2 Dawn for Onami, swing with leader with banish, double attack is always crazy. And then later on, if any of those attacks connect, you can just give 2 Rested Dawn to Onami and then swing 5. It's like the value of swinging 5k versus having a chump blocker, essentially. But the chump blocker is searchable, which I really like. So for my purposes, I like this Izo. I don't know if it'll see as much play as Onami, because then there's no trigger, right? But it's searchable, which is very nice. Onami obviously wasn't searchable in any of the decks unless you were running the Darashi, which was the 3-cost event that searched for 2 cards with trigger. That was kind of your way to get around it. But it is nice because we can always heal with like the Momonosuke blocker to life. Right? The 5-cost Momo blocker can heal Land of Wano characters to life. So if you just have nothing else on board, you can always play this out for banish, heal it to life later on, and then, you know, obviously take the hit to life to get it back to your hand, then give banish again. Whereas Onami, being not Land of Wano typing, you couldn't heal it with Momonosuke. You could always use like an 8-drop Katakuri, but like if you're doing more Land of Wano build style, that Momonosuke definitely kind of combos nicely with the Izo. But yeah, definitely pros and cons either way if you're going to run the Izo or the Onami. For consistency's sake, if you want that banish, it's nice that it is searchable, right? We've got 2k counter, Kinemon, 4/5 2k counter. If your leader has the Land of Wano type and your opponent has 3 or less life cards, play this card. So another one of the, if your opponent has 3 or less life, play this out for free type of cards. So the fact that he's a 2k counter, pretty nice, you know, similar to Cab Viper, you know, Kikunojo, all these 4 costs that kind of do the same thing. It's nice to get a free body, right? Because with Yamato, that double attack being so kind of threatening, oftentimes you're going to be just attaching a decent amount of your Dawn to leader to swing kind of heavy. So getting these bodies out from life that are just free to play out, always good. So I could see this getting some play for sure, even if you're not doing a full Land of Wano build. We got our first SR, Momonosuke. 6/7, no counter. Again, I was really hoping for a good like 5 to 7 cost, so this is definitely fulfilling that. I'm very happy about this. Your turn. If you have 2 or less life cards, your leader gets plus 1000 power. Honestly, seeing this made me think of the mono yellow Yamato leader, which is just if you have 2 or less life cards and you have a Dawn attached, you get plus 1000 power in your opponent's turn. It's just your turn though, so it's, you know, if it was for both people's turn, that'd be kind of crazy, you know, that'd be absolutely wild, but I can dream, right? But still very happy with this. He's got activate main, so really nice for like a Blackbeard matchup where you're not getting on plays. Once per turn, you may return 2 total of your currently given Dawn cards to your cost area rested. This character gains rush and plus 1000 power during this turn, so he becomes a 6/8 rush. Woo! Very new style of like wording. I don't know, with like the currently given Dawn, so 2 of your attached Dawn, right, to your rest area. So that means you can play those 2 Dawn out rested with your leader ability to swing 10k with this if you have nothing else, right? So you can get a 6/10 rush and you get plus 1000 power on your turn. And again, once you kind of hit your opponent down to like 3 or less life, sometimes you are a little bit more lenient to take your own life hits because you can get these bodies out for free, right? And sometimes it can be the difference of game, right? If your opponent's at like 2 life, they hit you, you get a free body, and then you just go double attack, swing with character, and go for game, right? So you definitely can utilize that plus 1k for sure. But yeah, definitely a really nice SR. I'm very excited for this for sure. Love the art too. They did an amazing job with all the art for the SRs, I'd say, with these starter decks. But yeah, obviously we didn't get that 8 cost rush Yamato, you know. I was a believer, I was a dreamer, you know. I was dreaming. But our other SR is our Searcher. A 1 cost, 0k power, 1k counter Yamato. Don times 2 your turn, this character gets plus 3,000 power, so essentially 5k power, right? 2 rested Don, so 2k power. Well, not rested Don, but 2 Don, plus that 3,000, so 5k. On play, look at top 5 cards of your deck. Reveal up to 1 Land of Wano type card with a cost of 2 or more. So it can search Yamatos, right? But they just can't be this Yamato. So really nice that it can search out our 9 cost Yamato. You know? And it's not color specific. So you can find like Secret Rare Yamato, for example. 2k counters. Yamato's a few 2k counters. I think like a 3 cost or a 5 cost. Right? This is pretty decent for a searcher. The fact that it's a searcher that can swing, because currently our searchers for Land of Wano were Momonosuke, the 1 cost that rests itself in 1 Don to search. I think you'd still run that. And then Otama, which is a 2k counter that looks for green Land of Wano, and specifically green. So since we have a lot of new support and it's yellow only, really, I think we will probably cut that green Otama from the deck for lieu of maybe one of these new 2k counters. Or even a different one, right? Because this Yamato and the Momonosuke can find any Land of Wano, regardless of color, like green or yellow. And the fact that this can swing, right? Like you hit them with the double attack, right? So our curve would be like on 1 Don, you could play this Yamato, pick up whatever you need. 3 Don, maybe you swing 8k, double attack at their life. They take it or give you 2 2ks. Either way, you applied a decent amount of pressure. But say they take the 8k on your 5 Don turn, you can play out whatever. And then attach 2 rested Don with your lead ability to this and then swing 5k. Giving you, you know, a decent swing for the turn. Just applying a little bit of pressure with a searcher is nice. So you'll have 2 kind of searchers that require an answer, right? The Momonosuke searcher resting himself to search again. Obviously, your opponent has to swing into that or KO it, remove it, however, so you don't get more value from searching every turn. This, you know, you always have the option to turn it into a swing with just your lead ability, right? It could be kind of interesting. I'm very excited. I'm very excited. I want to pick up the Yamato starter deck, build my Land of Wano only build. We don't have a Hody replacement. I'm going to keep crying about that, but is what it is. I'm very excited to build Yamato, I'll say that. And Bonnie and all my green decks. We got a lot of new Supernova support. Very excited about that. I think overall, after seeing all the starter deck support, I think Blackbeard still wins for the best support for his specific deck. Obviously, I mean, if you're red, purple, Uta, you're eating pretty good too. But obviously the Shanks deck, I don't know if it had like the biggest impact on Shanks. Buggy support definitely helped for sure. Like that 4 Don curve looks a lot better. You got a lot more options. You know, Bonnie and Yamato got some pretty nice support. I think honestly, a lot of the Supernova support, I'd like to see how we can utilize that in other decks like Green Yell Law. It could be pretty interesting, right? Because you can recur a lot of value through your searches in Green Yell Law. So picking back up this, playing it back out, could be pretty nice. Same with this Veggie. You know, even Red Green Law, you know, you could utilize some of these cards. They're just 2 costs and get some decent value. You know, I also wonder, like, this isn't leader locked at all with its ability. So the potential in blue yellow Nami is there as well, right? You could get some decent value with your Dawn, because you also run like the 2-cost blue Teach that attaches to Rested Dawn, so that kind of helps with the secondary ability for this. Not bad, right? But yeah, definitely a lot of fun support. I'm very excited to deck build with the Yamato stuff, the Bonnie stuff. You know, overall, I think these star decks are a very interesting addition to our set 11. Hopefully it spices some stuff up. Obviously, blue purple Luffy still kind of crazy, really strong deck, but you know, these did give us a lot of new options for deck building and a lot of increases to powers to some older leaders. Am I sad that, you know, we didn't get a Hody replacement? I think that's fine. We've got set 12 brings us that event for like 4 Dawn. You can still run Hody and Yamato, obviously. I've talked about that quite a lot. The ACOS that was kind of teased, or, you know, that was fake, right? Is what it is that we didn't get something. I think this Momonosuke is super good, super strong. And it's a bit of aggro that can't be denied through like Blackbeard's effect, like I said. So definitely want to test this out for sure. So I'm very excited. But yeah, a lot to look forward to. A lot coming out. Set 11 pre-releases are going on. We got the Star decks coming out in like a week or so, I think, like the 10th or something, like June, like early June, right? And then we got set 12 coming up too, which looks insane. So much for One Piece TCG around the corner and coming up. Let me know what you're excited about. How's this new starter deck support looking for any decks that you wanted to play? What are you excited to utilize these cards in, if not their given leader, right? Let me know all that down in the comments. Of course, leave a like, subscribe, and hope to see you on the next one. Bye-bye.